Hi, welcome to the Caucus for Women in Statistics 50th anniversary celebration. For this celebration, we have reached out to our past presidents to interview them. This interview will be of Nancy Flournoy by Jan Dasgupta. Nancy was our 2014 president, and Jan will be our 2022 president.
Okay, so Nancy, I want to we are doing this interview for the 50th year of the Caucus for Women in Statistics, and we're interviewing all the presidents for the caucus. And so I will basically put the interview in two parts. One is kind of your year as the president, and then your career trajectory. Okay, so I am going to do it so that when I ask the first question, I am going to not record myself. It's just going to be you on the screen. So it's better that way. So I've figured out a way to do that. Okay. So Nancy, which year were you the president, and what were the most pressing issues of that year?
So I was president in 2014, and it was an interesting time for several reasons. First, I was recruited by Susmita Datta, who was the previous president. And during her year, the computer had crashed that had all the background, had all of the CWS records in it. And we were paying for backups, but the company that was supposed to do the backups didn't do the backups. And so everything was lost. And so Susmita spent a huge amount of her time just getting things functioning from a computer point of view. And then when I started, there were no records. I mean, we had some we managed, different previous presidents had certain records and copies of the Constitution, but it wasn't clear what was current or what was not current. And a lot of things were clearly missing. And so so every Saturday morning, Jessica and I, the executive secretary, would spend our Saturday mornings rewriting the Constitution. And part of it was because there was this great lack of information that there'd been a lot of work put on before, but the other was because it was obsolete from a technical point of view. There were things in the Constitution that required people to mail things in, to do things that simply completely obsolete by today's processing. And the Constitution was really constricting the ability of the organization to function. So I want to back up though, because I sort of got thrust into the caucus activities the summer before I became president. And that was at the JSM meeting, which would. Then been the 2013 JSM meeting, I believe, because we became president in January. So of course I was, there for the extended period of time, to be there for all the caucus events, and sitting at the table, the greeting table, a lot, and looking through. We get this handout, which is the handout of who's going to get the major awards and who's going to do the major talks. And thumbing through it was pretty startling that there were no women. The only women in the brochure at all were the young women who had just won the Gertrude Cox scholarships.
Okay.
So no talks, no awards, no nothing. It was stunning. And since I was in this new position of authority to sort of be able to speak, I and whoever was around me drafted a petition objecting, and addressed to all the heads of the COPS.
Okay.
so all the societies, and it complained quite forcefully that this was not acceptable. And I thought, like, I'm really sticking my, I'm really getting my head out here. But what was really amazing was how many men came by and sang the petition. So we had the petition at the hospitality table, and we had it at the receptions and things. People went around and handed it out. We got I can't tell you how many signatures we got, but I was stunned that people who I wouldn't have even expected to pay any attention to it, felt strong, recognized that it was not good and felt strongly. Well, a lot of good things came out of that. The IMS started something, I can't tell you what now, but the main major result, besides the fact that everybody started paying attention to whether they had women on their programs as they went forward, the lectureship that's just been the FN David lectureship, the first lectureship named after a woman, that is a consequence of this action. So part of what I did was work on that while I was chair. I wasn't working on it in that form. I was working on it as trying to get a lectureship to I was trying to get a woman's lectureship to be a woman's speaker. And there was a fair amount of objection to that by members in COPS, particularly, most damagingly to the effort by women presidents of statistical societies. So that my immediate effort did not work, but it was picked up by other people and transformed into this idea that we won't have a lectureship for a woman, we'll have a lectureship named after a woman. And so it does a lot to accomplish the same goals. And it got everybody talking about the pros and the cons of having something that is named after a woman or having quotas for women. And these issues and discussions come up time and time again that, and we don't need to go into that because unless you want to, but that was a big effort that didn't have any immediate payoff during my tenure as president. So as president, again, writing the Constitution, that was, you asked about it. So it was really, really hard to be president in those days, myself, and I believe probably everyone before me, because there was no support staff to speak of. The executive secretary is a volunteer position, and there was no financial support for her or anybody else to come to meetings. And so, the caucus had very little organizational structure within it. There was some, but the upshot of the way it was organized was that the president spent, or at least I spent, and I think other presidents, most of your time getting ready for the joint statistical meeting. Okay. All of the organizational aspects of that meeting were handled alone by the president. Okay. And so there were lots of decisions to be made and no history. So you didn't know what, you had to learn a lot to know when something was supposed to be done, what was supposed to be done. I mean, ordering the catering, a lot of these tasks that Jessica's done for enough years now that she can whip it out pretty quickly were major decision points. How much money do you have? Can you spend? Can you afford this or that? Everything was very taxing. And
Okay.
so part of what rewriting the Constitution did is put in a structure so that the president could spend more time having an initiative, following initiative, doing something that they thought was productive for helping women advance their careers, and less time with the administration. And Jessica, bless her heart, has been wonderful in terms of taking up the administrative responsibilities that allowed this to be a much stronger society in terms of its support for women.
Exactly. So what was your favorite memory of that year, your presidential year?
Probably just working with Jessica.
Okay.
I mean, we got up every Saturday. The only times we'd missed Saturday was when she had to go to a football game with her.
Okay. So do you remember who the executive committee was other than Jessica?
It was big, and we did have meetings, but we didn't have the kind of communication connections now to have it regularly. In fact,
Okay.
the meetings, this was part of the problem, is the meetings being required. It was telephone. It wasn't see people. So I didn't even necessarily know the people on the committee and couldn't face-to-face interact. Although I would have known some, I'm sure. Amanda certainly, was there from the year before, or a couple of years before, and of course, our treasurer and has been there for a long time, and
Anna.
there are a couple of people that have been there for a long time. And there were some major disagreements, which I can't tell you much about now because I've forgotten. But like we had representatives, but their jobs were not articulated, so they really didn't do much of anything.
Okay. So I think you already answered the question. Who on the executive committee do you remember the most? Looks like it was Jessica. Okay.
No doubt about that.
Okay. So in 2 words, how do you feel about the CWS?
I love it. That's 3 words.
Okay, that's fine. Well, we could say love it. So that's 2 words.
I love it.
Okay, perfect. So now we'd like to move on to your career path, that part of the interview. So how did you end up being a statistician?
Well, I was doing my undergraduate work at UCLA, and I took, in my junior year, I took a statistics class from Don Yalvasacker. It was kind of one of those probability roll into statistics years, and I just loved it. And after that, I started taking every statistics course I could find on campus. I didn't really know what a statistician was, but I knew I liked statistics. And it was really funny because I talked to Don many years later, and he said because I thought he had this fantastic group of students every year, and it was wonderful. He said it was the best class he'd ever had, and that, something like 8 of the students in the class had gone on and got doctorates in the field. So it was a special time to be there, and he doesn't know why this class, and I don't either, but it was great. It was wonderful.
Great. Anything you would like to share regarding your career development?
Well, I've got a lot on record, different places already. There are, there's lots of things to one's career development. There's the personal and the technical.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, I had good technical training, both at UCLA for my bachelor's and master's, and then at the University of Washington. The
Mm-hmm.
basic, faculty were strong and the curriculum was strong. And I enjoyed all of that quite thoroughly.
Mm-hmm.
The so what about my, the personal, I guess I'd refer you to the films that there's an interview that was done for the WSDS by
Okay. Okay. Okay.
and
Okay.
I think the caucus has those films, and I do talk quite a bit about my personal experience as a woman, and it's interesting because my feeling is that people need to talk,
Mm-hmm.
because if you don't talk, the experience, nothing changes.
Mm-hmm.
And yet at the same time, when you start talking, you don't really know how it's going to be received.
Exactly.
And I was very, really astonished at the first, I guess the first or the first two WS, Women in Statistics and Data Science conferences. So I talked in the first two very personally. And I was very surprised to see how little had changed, and how poorly, things, women's kind of divide into two camps based on their experience, largely. So there's the women who have never had anything negative happen to them. They've been well taken care of, and they don't see a problem. The sort of a subgroup of that are the women who are in very good academic or industry positions, and they don't want their success to be seen as anything less than a result of their accomplishments. So they want no recognition of their gender role in their experience. And that was the case of at least one woman on the COPS committee when I was trying to get the lectureship through. I think they don't want, they think anything that's specially named after women reflects poorly on them. And then there's the women who have had experiences that that few have been able to share with anybody. And one of the good things about the WSDS conference series is to give, when you have a large number of women in a together, it provides an opportunity for them to talk about things that they might not talk about in any other setting. What I was surprised about is how, as I say, how little had changed, and how many, and how many, I mean, how many doesn't have to be hundreds, right? Any number is too many, but the incidences of assault and rape and other hostile acts is still totally unacceptable. And that sort of came along at the beginning of, sort of what evolved into the Me Too movement, particularly the Me Too movement from the point of statisticians. And I still think of the men that had judgments against them, the men that I know that have had judgments against them. And when I think about them, I think about the fact that they all landed they were swept up immediately into other jobs and taken care of. They suffered, they may have suffered, a crush to their pride, but they didn't suffer a crush to their pocketbook. And then I think of the women, I don't know them all, but the ones I know, who did end up, even though the judgments were in their favor, they were ostracized and treated poorly. So I think that, it's hard to know how to focus positive attention on the issues, but I think giving women a space, which is what WSDS does, is very important. And what I wanted to see, which didn't happen, I guess for lack of manpower, and I was then not president, but what I would like to see is a group that follows after these cases and reports, where it becomes public, what has happened to the men and what has happened to the women, so that it stays in people's consciousness more, and the discrepancy, the injustice that is meted out, even if the man is found guilty of whatever the charge was, there still typically is an injustice that is comes down negatively on the woman. And anyway, that would be, I think, helpful.
Okay. I would like to talk to you about this because I'm becoming the president in 2022. So these are things, talking to ex-presidents might give me some ideas of what we can do. And
well, you've got a very special time. I mean,
I know.
Put together initiatives with the COVID. I'm thinking, is that what you're thinking with this?
Well, I'm one of the things I was thinking is that with the data science being part of, statistics and data science, the lines being blurred, some of the issues that have been really prevalent in computer science is now spilling over in statistics in terms of our female students taking the classes and, facing some of these things, which I would have thought they're not facing anymore. And, that's one of the reasons I decided to run for president, because I said these things they shouldn't have to face anymore. This is archaic. Yeah. I mean, at least in statistics, we have gotten rid of some of these, issues, but this is very much
it's not clear we have. I mean, we had the whole Brad Carlin Bayesian group that, that group had been abusing women for decades that I know of. And so what's really changed? I mean, Brad got another job and he's somewhere else. He's probably doing the same thing. When Rob Muirhead was kicked out of Michigan, he immediately got another job. He's probably doing the same thing just in an industrial setting instead of a
academic setting.
Setting, but but these are statisticians. They're not.
Yeah.
I think, I think the problems with the statisticians are still there too.
Yeah. I mean, some of them were also like things like, girls being told that, data science is not for women. It's like, those kinds of things, like, not even implicit, explicitly is told this. I mean, at least I think we have gotten a little bit better about, not being so explicit about it, but.
Yeah, I would agree there.
Yeah. So I think, it's really gotten back, just again with the, the data science, statistics, that whole arena being sort of the lines being blurred now. I think that's kind of what I really want to do, is to make sure that the people coming after us don't have to face some of these things, they have a voice,
Or at least they have a support group.
Yeah.
That they, and that was one of the reasons that was one of the things we were hoping to do with the mentoring program.
Mhm.
without advertising it. I mean, it's more than just a support group for that, but we didn't want to advertise it as that. And so it's not clear that women know that they can use it that way.
Yeah. Yeah,
So-
I mean, I think that the whole mentoring thing is huge because, I mean, for me, that was always the big thing. I found women mentors, who allowed me to talk, and it's like peer mentors, mentors that came, before me, so I think that was huge for me, that I had mentors, both men and women, but, I found a lot of women mentors, who helped me in my path and that I could talk to,
Well,
which,
most of my mentors were men, but they were not men of my own generation.
yeah. Mhm. Mhm. Mhm.
I mean, I found the older men helpful, and my peers, um, well, to be neutral would be the best thing you could. The best of them were neutral.
Okay.
And
Okay. Yeah. I mean, I think some of that has gotten better. I mean, at least me, my sort of, but a lot of these things still go on. I mean, we can
but you're
talk about.
not so junior anymore either.
No, I'm not.
The disappearance of the actions is age correlated. At some
Yeah.
point, it's very interesting. At some point, you've kind of made it in that you exist and you're there and whatever. And then what I find is that all of a sudden, these same people are now your best friends. It's like,
Yeah, you've been, you've passed the rite of passage sort of thingy,
right,
They put,
right.
they put you through fire and then decide whether or not, you're
And
in
when
trouble.
they can't get rid of you, then they want to be your buddy.
Yeah. Mhm. And I think, speaking up is, I mean, I think that's one of the things I did from day one. And I think that, I don't know, helped or hindered, but whatever. I mean, I think it helped me because I wasn't gonna sit there and, and I think people who knew me knew that too. But it's not about me, it's about you, Nancy. So let's keep talking. So what challenges do you think female statisticians face today?
Well, we've been talking about a few. So everybody has different personalities, and there are introverts and extroverts, and people that are social and people that are not social. And I think that in part my success was very much helped by the fact that as a young person, I was not social.
Mhm.
I mean, I didn't. I had older brothers who, didn't want me around. I was a nuisance. I was used to being shoved away. I thought that was normal. So when I was treated not friendly, and it was normal to me.
Mhm. Mhm.
I think that if I had been a social creature, and from what I see watching, that those are the women that either don't come into male-dominated fields or don't succeed if they do.
Mhm.
The lonely, I don't tend to feel lonely, but I think that loneliness drives women out of the field because you're in some department and you don't have people to talk to, that you don't have people to talk to. I mean, it's bad enough if you're the only woman in like a statistics department, but if you're only statistician in a math department or something, then it's compounded.
Yeah. Mhm.
So,
Yeah.
so where did that come from? I think,
Challenges of female statisticians.
yes, well, and that's part of what the caucus is about, is providing a community. And I think these happy hours and stuff, I mean, there's some people that come and some people don't, but I think it's a great idea to build on,
Mhm.
because again, somebody can drop in, and even if they're not talking, they can be exposed to the camaraderie.
Yeah.
But so I was very fortunate in that regard. I think I was, happy to sit by myself and do my math problems when I was young. So challenges, what other challenges do women have? I mean, women come in, they're smart, they're talented. At least in my case, I knew no discrimination when I was a student. The professors were happy to teach you. You were, went through school. It's when you start your career that issues can come up. And so that's what the caucus is all about, and as we were just saying, I don't think the need has gone away. And so the challenge is to try and be more creative in trying to connect. And here we are in this time where nobody's connected. So that's a huge challenge. What about the young women graduating this year? Who even knows them? I bet NSF could make a list. They make a list of, they know PhDs. But otherwise, it's easy to get lost.
Yeah. Okay. Anything else you want to add to?
Well, let me. Okay, so helping women, they need honors and they need publications. If they're in academia, not so much publications in other places, but anything one can do to help women publish. And it has, the implicit bias stuff's been around for a long time. It's very clear that anything you can make double blind should be double blind. We have the ASA that's been double blind for quite a while now. We have the IMS that has refused adamantly to do anything double blind. Would be interesting to have somebody take them on, not that you'd win, but to keep the conversation going. And what about Biometrics Society? I don't know. I don't think they're blinded.
I don't know that either.
So the thing is to help women publish, and it's so at the time, I came of age, there were few if not any associate editors that were women. That's changed quite a bit.
Yes.
But it still so feels specific that it depends on what you're doing.
Yep.
And of course, getting a woman is no guarantee that
other women will be
favorably, because a lot of women want to overcompensate for being a woman.
Oh yeah.
But that's the challenge. The big challenge to help women in their careers in academia is publications.
Yes. Publications, grants, all of which is tough.
Well, the grants aren't going to come if you don't have any publications. Yeah, I mean, you can add things to it, but well, I know women that have gotten lots of grants because they were very good grant writers, and not many publications, and which was interesting,
Yeah.
But
Okay.
I think because they could see women doing more administrative helps things, and particularly grants, that seem more service oriented.
Oh yeah. Okay.
So you're going to have a good year.
I mean, mine is 2022. So this year I'm the president-elect. Yeah. But
If you want to talk more, call. I'm happy to talk.
Yeah, absolutely, I will. So Nancy, I'm going to stop the recording now then, and then, let's do that.